Come see us on tour in Syracuse, New York, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohoes, New York, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, and Toronto. Go to jimmydore.com for the cheapest tickets.
All right, here's the headline from The Hill. New poll, Democrats' approval remains at low point. And to break it down, let's go to CNN.
Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
And this is the number right here really driving all of this. If Democrats have turned, if Democratic voters have turned on Democrats in Congress and the Democratic Party, that's what puts the numbers at historic lows. What is it they want to be seeing, these voters?
What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. They don't like what's coming out of some of those Senate Democrats like Chuck Schumer because...
Let me bring in former Democratic member of Congress, Dennis Kucinich, who's ran for the Democratic presidential nomination. Try to take your party in a different direction. Economic populism, Medicare for all, being about peace. The party decided they didn't want that and went in a much different direction. And now they're at a record low approval rating. What are your thoughts on the state of the Democratic Party brand? Dennis Kucinich.
Well, because the American political system, which is essentially a two-party system, although, I've run as an independent at times, I was actually elected defeating both political parties when I was mayor of Cleveland. This system, California, this system is requires parties to offer something different in order to, create like the dialogue that is like a dialectic that somehow could benefit the American people. What's happened is this. About 40 years ago, the Democratic Party started to take corporate contributions. As a matter of fact, when I first came to Congress, you get a book. The party will give you a book that's like this thick, and it'll have potentially hundreds and hundreds of people you could dial for dollars and they'll give to your campaign. Well, a lot of them are corporate PACs. You take that money and you're marked. And so when the Democrats started taking corporate money, they changed the tune of the party. The opportunities for economic reform started to whittle away. I ran into this when I was advocating Medicare for all, and I was the last person standing when President Obama was pushing the Affordable Care Act, and he wouldn't hear about even a public option where states would have the ability to be able to have their own public system. They didn't want to hear about that. The Democrats and the political system are held captive. The decision of Citizens United basically put that in stone. Money-free speech, corporations can buy elections now, and other interest groups weigh in, buy elections. So what happens is you have a homogenization of our politics. It's all the same. People, and so when people are being told by the Democratic Party, vote Democrat, well, why? So here's the Democrats need to go back to that old-time religion of economic reform. In 1932, Franklin Roosevelt demolished Republicans at the poll. Herbert Hoover won big in 1928. But when Roosevelt proposed a way of getting out of an economic depression and put a New Deal forward that really lifted people from the bottom up, okay? This was the cardinal principle of a Democratic Party, that you protect everyone. 1932. The Democratic Congress, which was in bad shape in 28, suddenly rocketed to control in 1932 with the Roosevelt banner. When Medicare was formed under Lyndon Johnson, that was a seminal moment where Democrats recognized the economic needs of the people. What happened is that we forgot, as a party, we forgot that history of Roosevelt and the New Deal, of Johnson and the Great Society, Medicare, and the trade deals, NAFTA and things like that. It was like all of a sudden people were just being used. So Democrats know they're being used, and Trump's election and his reelection was not so much that people were in love with Donald Trump, although, he does have a lot of supporters. But there's also a good number of people who say the Democratic Party has failed us, and we're not going to give them support just because they exist. So there needs to be a dramatic change in what the Democratic Party stands for. And you got to go back to what were the motivating principles in the New Deal? What were the motivating principles of the Great Society? I mean, we can do that, but it's going to require a dramatic change in our politics. And whether or not, and frankly, based on those poll results you just put on the screen, American people, I think, are ready for something different inside the Democratic Party.
Or maybe an entirely new party altogether.
Look, that's quite possible. I can tell you, as in this past election, I ran as a independent for Congress because, I had it up to here with the Democrats being for war. I'm not for war. War is stupid. You defend your country, but you don't need to aggress against other countries. What I found out was this: I got more votes than any independent running for Congress in the House in the whole country. I had over 50,000 votes. But the polarization in the country right now is so great, Aaron, that people, even if they don't know the candidates, they'll vote the label R or D. Right. And that's something you got to think about. It's not like just because you come up with all kinds of great ideas or people know you, it may not be enough. So, does America need more options? Of course. How about a two-party system?
Dennis Kucinich, former Democratic member of Congress representing Ohio, former mayor of Cleveland, and former Democratic presidential hopeful, and consistent advocate for peace and justice. Thank you so much for joining us on the Jimmy Dore Show.
Thanks so much, and read my Substack and see where I stand. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you.
Come see us on tour in Syracuse, New York, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohoes, New York, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, and Toronto. Go to jimmydore.com for the cheapest tickets.